this is Ghost, and I'm playing 6 Days of Snow. It is day 3 of our 6-day journey, so we are officially halfway there. Or, well, after we finished this day, we'll be halfway there, I guess. But we're about to be halfway there to the end of this game. And, this is actually a lot more story than I thought it would be. I thought I'd have, like, choices of something, but nope, this is just completely story, but that's okay. I'm having fun here. I'm enjoying my time. Are you guys enjoying this? Purple text, don't you dare say no. So it's been about 2 days since I recorded the last, since I recorded day 2 of this. And I've gone from being really sick to not sick at all to extremely sick to not sick at all to mildly sick. Yeah, I'm mildly sick now. I don't know what the F is wrong. I normally don't get sick for more than like a few days at a time. And I usually only get sick like maybe twice a year. It's very uncommon for me to get sick. No, that sounds kind of crazy, like you only get sick a few times a year, but like I have a friend who gets sick at least 10 times a year. It's like every time I see her, she's sick in some way, shape, or form. But I never catch her sickness, and I haven't seen her in a while, and now I'm sick. Maybe she was preventing me from getting sick. You know, all the germs were surrounding me constantly, so my immune system just got used to it. And now that I don't see her as often, my immune system is just like crumbling. It doesn't know what to do with itself, so now it's just decided to be sick for a long time. Because I've never been sick for this long before. It's been almost a month of me just being semi-sick. And I know you guys don't hear it as much because I cut out all the sniffling. I cut out the nasty sounds that your body makes when you're sick, because I don't want you guys to hear all that. So I do my best to cut out, you know, sniffling and stuff. But I am sick. Mildly sick. Not like deathly sick, like, oh god, I need medicine right now. But I'm mildly sick. I'm like, you know, maybe a cough drop every now and then would be nice. Anyway, enough of my rambling. I don't want another 6-minute intro like I had on the first day. It was almost 7 minutes. It was crazy. So let's just begin. It snowed throughout the night, but the flurry of snowflakes ceased their graceful waltz come the dawning of the new day. I stretched, cat-like. I'm a cat now, with the advent of the oncoming dawn. Oncoming dawn, so my spine cracked. Then, in what was fast becoming a routine, it's so easy to fall into ruts even after a scant 2 days, I curled up even deeper beneath my covers, trying jealously to cling onto whatever slivers of warmth I could. We humans are creatures of habit. Though so many of us, from all walks of life, desire freedom, the surely teenager cloistered within a classroom, the businessman toiling away inside an office, the unhappy couple doomed to further unhappiness by their fears of loneliness, we all in the end seem to seek out patterns. Yeah, you forgot about the ghost who's in the background, who does nothing because they're a ghost and they're ignored by everyone. Who doesn't talk to anybody and just watches people with longing in their eyes. And their very dead-looking eyes, because they haven't slept in forever. We humans crave order, and travel the world only so we may put everything into its proper place. Not me. I hate order. I like chaos a lot, and that disturbs my mom. My mom always gets mad at me for not knowing anything. She'll take me on a drive and she'll be like, "Do you remember this road?" And I'll be like, "Nope." I've even told her that places that I'm familiar with, like my school, which I no longer go to because, I'm not a high school student anymore. I graduated. Anyway, like, places like my old school or, um, my house or a restaurant I like, they're just kind of, they're like little islands. They're floating in this mess of darkness. Because I don't remember the roads, I don't remember scenery. I mean, maybe I'll get to remember, like, oh, I live next to a water tower, or, oh, yeah, that flag on that person's house looks familiar because I've gone past it this many times and it's ingrained in my memory, but I never remember exactly what way to go. Like, if I ever got my license, because I have a permit, not a actual license, but if I ever got my license and I was able to drive on my own, I'd get lost. I'd get lost in my own neighborhood. Well, maybe not in my own neighborhood. Yeah, I probably wouldn't get lost in my own neighborhood, but I'd get lost outside of my neighborhood. I'd get lost just driving to the corner store. I like to travel the world for excitement, just for fun. I don't really care for putting anything in its proper place. We classify our flora and fauna, give names to all the stars we see, and jot everything down in atlases, calendars, and endless reports. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe animals do that too, you know? Maybe a cat looks at us and calls us a cat, and they call themselves humans. Now that would be a creepy thought. Maybe they see a flower and call it bacon. Even the heart of a wanderer stricken by wanderlust will experience pangs of homesickness from time to time. Yeah, that's true. Humans are a contradictory bunch. We say we hate routine, but when routine gives way to anarchy, we flounder with our newfound freedom. Yeah, that's true. We can't cope without structure. Yeah, that's true. Give us too much to think about and too much free time to think about it in, and we start to sink beneath the weight of our own imaginations. Sure. You would think I, being an author, would be even more flighty and impetuous than most, and maybe I was in my youth. The younger E.G., who'd taken Sachiko to see the fireworks and kissed her beneath the starry sky, was filled with flights of fancy. I'm not like that nowadays. 'Cause you're a grumpy old man now? In my middle age, I've grown to love structure. It comforts me. I prefer familiar rhythms like the clicking of a typewriter's keys or the beating of my own heart. There, that's more like the clicking. I prefer familiar tastes like Sachiko's miso soup. I prefer familiar smells because they remind me of times of my past. Ow. But if I like order so very much, why'd I go to such extremes to disturb my marital life? A life that, to any bystander, would seem perfectly idyllic. 'Cause you're bored. I think we already established this, man. You got bored of order. You left because you were bored and unsatisfied with your own perfect life. It's sad, really. I didn't know. I still don't know. It was too early in the morning for such musings, and it was much too cold. I agree, even though it's 2:05 p.m. and it's no longer the morning at all, it's still too early in the morning for such musings. And so, like any weak man who takes solace in dreams, I squeezed my eyelids together and slept. Ah, sounds nice. I tried doing that this morning at 7:50 a.m., right? I woke up at 7:50 a.m. and I was like, you know what? I don't have to wake up right now. I'm just gonna stay in bed because I have no point in waking up anyway. Nope. Too bad. You don't get an extra hour of sleep. Ghost. Too bad. There here's a dog barking, and I was like, oh god, dog's barking outside. You know what? It's okay. They'll eventually stop, right? So I tried to go back to sleep again anyway. And nope, sorry. Guess what? Somebody's got a lawnmower. I swear, people mow their lawns all the time here. I don't know why. I don't know why they mow the lawns. Like, every day somebody is mowing their lawn. Every day. Whew, it's crazy. And it's always when you don't want them to mow the lawn. Like, it's either in the morning when you're trying to sleep, or at night when you're trying to sleep. Yes, they mow at night. Or it's just in the middle of the day when I am recording, or when I'm watching the TV, which I never do actually. That's a lie. When I'm watching Netflix. the lawnmowers are everywhere. When Reiko arrived to deliver my breakfast, I was dressed and already waiting. I didn't even eat breakfast today, but I don't feel hungry. I had some sunflower seeds, and that was it. Oh, and a Butterfinger. I had a Butterfinger and some sunflower seeds. There's no food in my house. I gotta go grocery shopping. Too bad. I've got an orange in there, I think. So that'll be my lunch. I don't think I read that. I just skipped whatever, it's okay. When Reiko entered, sliding the wooden door aside to grant her entry, I lifted my head and offered her a smile. She didn't smile back. Oh, okay. The young girl seemed to stagger beneath the weight of the tray, though my breakfast was a rather humble affair. Is it more rice? Or some fish? White rice! How did I know? Pickles and miso soup. I don't think I've ever had white rice before. I've had some kind of rice, I know that. I just don't know what kind of rice it was. I just called it rice. But it wasn't white in color. It was like an orangey-ish, yellowish color. So I don't think it was white rice. I've also never had soup before, any kind of soup. Mainly because I'm a weirdo who doesn't really like certain textures of food, and I don't know, having food that's a liquid just sounds kind of weird to me. I don't want, chicken in a liquid. I don't want tomatoes in a liquid. I don't want anything in a liquid. Soups just sound gross to me because it's mainly liquid. It's chunky stuff in liquid, and I don't like the sound of it. So I've never really had soup. Mainly just because I don't like the look of soup. I'm a very weird person. But I bet you guys already knew that. Anyway, let's continue. I wonder if it was as good as the miso soup Sachiko made. I bet it is! I bet it's not. I wondered still more at Reiko's welfare, and why it was that she looked so haggard and worn, her expression so morose and melancholy. She looked as though she had the weight of the entire world on her shoulders. Well, her mom probably beat. Okay, I can't say that. Sorry, I'll have to cut that out. Cut what out? I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't cut anything out. She's probably just having a bad day. She had a bad day. She's taking one down. She's singing a bad song just to turn it around. Are you alright? I asked her, foregoing a more typical greeting. Why do I forget the T of words sometimes? Greeting. Like, what the frick? I'm fine, she said, though she didn't sound fine. Really, I'm fine, typical teenager. It was the really appended at the end, I think, that hammered home how not fine she was, despite her pretenses. Anybody who is fine really doesn't need to protest their fineness. Fineness is a quality that should be evident simply by looking at one's face. Nothing about Reiko in that moment as she crossed the... I don't know why I said moment like that. As she crossed the tatami floor with uncertain steps was fine. The sad thing was, I wasn't sure what to do. Do you want me to take your tray? I asked her, because it was the only way I could think of aiding her. Reiko, however, shook her head. I had expected as much. It's fine, this is my job. But if it's too heavy for you... Like I said, it's fine, Reiko reinstated. There it was again, that word, fine. Everyone knows fine doesn't mean fine. If she'd been a better actress... That time I skipped over the C. An actress. Maybe she would have smiled to assuage me of my worries, but her face was far too earnest. It isn't heavy, really. I just realized I haven't been doing voices. And Mother would get mad at me for asking a guest to serve themselves. It would be improper. The mere mention of her mother made Reiko... I almost said Winko. Reiko wince. I'd had my suspicions already, of course, but that confirmed it. Miss Kakiuchi really was the one to blame for Reiko's poor moods. Well, of course. All parents are to blame for their teenagers' poor moods, most of the time. If it's not the parents, then it's their friends. And Reiko doesn't seem to have any of those. It seemed to be a delicate issue, however. Personal matters between families often are, and I wasn't sure how to broach it. It wouldn't have seemed right to launch an inquiry, particularly not when Reiko was sliding my breakfast onto the table with a mutter of "Please enjoy." Please enjoy? I couldn't talk to Reiko, not like that, not when she was in the middle of serving me. I thought perhaps she would have answered my inquiries had I made them. Inquiries or inquiries? I've always called it inquiries, but now I'm uncertain. And it's bothering me. I'm gonna still call it inquiries, even though it's probably inquiries. But she would have answered them out of a sense of duty because she didn't want to upset her guests. Not because she genuinely wanted to tell me. The thought of manipulating her in such a way made me feel queasy. I shook my head. That was no manner for equals to converse. I couldn't be Reiko's equal because she wouldn't let me, not like she had yesterday. I told myself I'd have to wait for another opportunity, when she had let her guard down. The only question was, when? Maybe the next day! Or later today. I was gonna say tonight, then I was gonna say today, and it came out as tonight. Tonight. As it transpired, I didn't need to wait all that long, after all. I left the Azami Inn at around 9 o'clock. In the morning? I'm assuming in the morning. I had finished my breakfast. The miso soup was not as good as Sachiko's, which would have made her happy, and whiled away a few hours with my thoughts. I can't recall what it was I was thinking about, so I doubt it was particularly interesting, but sometimes it's nice to allow your consciousness to drift. No, it's never nice, trust me. I do it all the time whenever there's silence, and it's awful. My consciousness should never drift. It was very... Oh, the neighbors. Now they've got their music blasting. Okay, they stopped it. Yay. It was very easy to drift in the Azami Inn, surrounded by the trees and the mountains and all the beautiful, unblemished snow. Maybe I had adapted the mentality of a snowflake myself, caught in a breeze, willing to land wherever I fell. Okay, Mr. Snowflake. I had brought a notebook with me to be used whenever my creative muse struck, but nothing I had written during my trip could be salvaged. You've already written stuff? What have you written? It was hard to write about snow, I realized, when so much had already been said on the topic. It's cold. It's fun. It's light. It's white. It's snow. It's harsh, brutal, but also it means Santa's coming. But the snow wasn't all I wrote about, lost in a swirling haze of sentiment, and also it's snowing on Mount Fuji. Lost in the swirling haze of sentiment, my pen seemed to move of its own volition, sketching out shapes with unsteady words. Black hair, brown eyes, that tiny pinprick of a beauty mark just below her left eye. Ah, yes, of course, you got to write about the amore. And so it was, as I left the confines of the Azami Inn, that I happened, quite by chance, to come across the object of my continued curiosity. Because of course you would. This is a romance novel, after all. Reiko was walking through the snow, her arms moving back and forth by her sides like a soldier's. Her dark hair fluttered behind her like a cape, and her eyes were downturned. She was holding a shovel in one hand, gripping it tightly. Is it a snow shovel? She seemed so diminutive, especially when contrasted with the vast, seemingly endless snowscape, that part of me wanted to scoop her up into my arms and hold her, like the creepy weirdo I was. That was a silly thought, though. I wasn't young enough to act on my impulses without fearing retribution. Instead, I called out to Reiko, like being called a creepy weirdo. Instead, I called out to Reiko, genially, and offered her a wave. Are you busy, Reiko? She jumped a little at my address, like she had been rudely awoken from a dream, and lifted her head. When she saw it was me, however, her shoulders relaxed. I could visibly see the tension leaving her body, like water draining from a bowl of boiled rice. She seemed to be in better spirits than she had at breakfast, though she was still jumpy. Nevertheless, she responded to my question. I was checking out the hot springs, she said. Mother wanted me to shovel snow, as you can probably tell. Yep, that's what I thought. So you weren't out burying corpses? Ha 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 ha! Rico frowned. Oh, okay. I know our inn has a bad reputation, but it isn't that bad, is it? What on earth was Yosuke telling you? I laughed. Ha, sorry, it was just a joke, not a very funny one, I know. I thought it was funny. But maybe that's because I have a dark sense of humor. No, it's all right, said Reiko, brushing a few strands of hair behind one ear with her free hand. I like jokes, even ones that aren't very funny. It can be so horribly gloomy around here. I imagine your mother wouldn't appreciate it. Mother doesn't appreciate a lot. That's part of the problem. Reiko sighed, distant and dreamy, and clenched the shovel to her chest. Oh, but this shovel is so beautiful. But I shouldn't speak ill of her, she said after a pause. Mother just wants the inn to be a success. I don't know if she picked a good location, I said gently. Not that she was the one who chose it, I suppose. What are you talking about, man? Look at how pretty this place is. I like it. I like the look of it. Sure, it's cold, but God, is it pretty. No, this inn has been here for, I don't know, centuries probably. For half a second, my blurry vision thought that said Christmas. And I was like, Christmas? That's not very long. If Miss Kakuichi wants her business to be successful, perhaps she should consider relocating, I asked. That would take a lot of work, time, money, effort. And also, this place is pretty nice. I offered it as a casual, airy suggestion, not wanting to sound like a snob. I didn't know anything about business myself, being a writer. Knowing it wasn't really in my place to comment, I tried to tiptoe around the subject matter. Had to yawn. Fortunately, Reiko didn't seem to mind my impertinence. She was a lot more at her ease, than she had been earlier. Maybe it was because we were outside and the cool breeze had helped clear her head. How is she not freezing in that kimono of hers? She should be freezing to death in that. It doesn't look very warm. Mother would never relocate. It wouldn't happen, she said firmly. Is it because of sentimental reasons? She must have loved your father a lot. Reiko pondered. I don't know about that. Father died when I was very young. I don't remember much about him. My father also died when I was very young. 2, to be exact. I was a baby. I don't remember anything. Reiko didn't seem too upset as she relayed these facts. She presented the information in quite a distanced manner, like a butcher might procure a joint of meat. It was likely she didn't suffer about her father because she had hardly known him. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I suffered a lot when I was younger because I was like, man, I wish I had a dad because my dad probably would have been encouraging me into sports because I like baseball, but my mom is like, no, it's too dangerous, but I want to play baseball anyway. And my father would have agreed with me because, fathers do that. And also I could have had someone to play video games with because that's what fathers do in my mind. And yeah, there were many moments when I was very torn up about it. I was very upset that I didn't have a father and all these other people did. All these other kids had families and I didn't. Well, I mean, I did, but mine was very small compared to theirs. Like, they had mothers, and they had a mother and a father and all these brothers and sisters, and all I had was my mom. They had all these people, and I had one person. I mean, I have a step mom, sort of. Not really. I guess it's not my. I guess she doesn't count as my stepmom. I don't understand. But I have stepbrothers and stepsisters, is my point. And I don't ever see them. I didn't even really see them that much as a kid either. But nowadays, yeah, I don't really care. I mean, I grew up. I've aged past the time where I wanted a father. Nowadays, it's like, it's normal. If I had a father now, suddenly, it would just be weird. And they probably wouldn't like me. It's hard to feel loss keenly if we don't truly know what it is we have lost in the first place. True, but you can also long for something that you've never had. It's different from loss. It's longing. And I don't really know which one's worse. It kind of depends on the situation. And what you've lost and what you've never had. But definitely, I think my stepbrothers and stepsisters suffered more when they lost their father than when I lost him. Because I was a baby, and I didn't, you know. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know he died. But I do wonder if I would have grown up differently if I had a father. I do wonder, like, what parts of me would have changed. And if I would have ever been in baseball. I suppose Mother must have loved him in her own way, but I don't think she would stay in this inn for the sake of romance. No? No, she isn't like the heroines in your poems, said Reiko with a small smile. She doesn't have a romantic bone in her body. You don't know that. Maybe she does, and she just covers it up, you know? You wouldn't know, 'cause your father died when you were very young. Maybe they were making out all the time while you were a baby. I didn't disbelieve it. I think Mother stays out here of stubbornness more than anything else, because the villagers think the inn will fail, and she wants to prove them wrong. That seems pretty, likely. Well, stubbornness can be a boon. Reiko nodded. It's admirable. It's admirable. Mother is an admirable woman. She works very hard, I just wish... But she broke off, and I never discovered what it is that she wished. It didn't really matter. Being a writer, I could imagine what she wanted to say well enough. I'm sorry, said Reiko, blushing. Listen to me prattling on about these things. I'm sure you're very busy. I'm the one who initiated the conversation. What are you talking about? I'm not busy. I was just going to go for a walk. You're the one who's supposed to be busy. Oh! Reiko's eyes lit up. Are you trying to get inspiration for a new poem? Something like that, I said. Can you recommend any particularly good places? I went for a walk yesterday, but I didn't know where to go. I just ended up wandering. Wandering can be fun, too. There's a lot to see out here. It's mostly snow and hills, of course, but it's very pretty. It is, but I imagine one gets bored of these sights quite quickly. After all these years, maybe, Reiko conceded with a small smile. But you've only lived here for 2 days. You have no right to act jaded just yet. I laughed as Reiko admonished me, waving one finger like a nagging housewife. At least this was how I imagined a nagging housewife might act, because Sachiko had never nagged me once in her whole life. Oh, that sounds great! Oh, can I marry that woman? I don't like girls, but I'll marry that one. No nagging? Free soup? She loves everything that you do? Dude, like, why? This sounds like heaven. It sounds like you've met the perfect person. Then again, what would I know? I've never been in love. I think she'd sooner iron her hands than waggle a finger at me, even in playful jest. The display was rather charming, perhaps because it was so novel. All right, you make a good point. I'm not jaded about the scenery, really. I should hope not. Being a writer, you should take more pleasure in all this snow than most. I do indeed, but I won't be staying here very long. As such, I want to know about the best sites. I'm a paying customer, and you shouldn't keep them to yourself. Okay, said Reiko, drawing out her syllables. Thank you for using your status against me. I know where I stand now. But I don't think she was really bothered. If she was, she wouldn't have been smiling so. As for sights, there really isn't much around here in walking distance, but there is a small shrine. A shrine covered in snow? It's not a big shrine, and it's kind of run down, but I go there when I want to be alone sometimes. It's peaceful. I think it's the kind of place that deserves a poem or two written about it. But nobody will write any poems because nobody knows it exists. Yeah. There are a lot of places like that in the world, I paused, pondering. A lot of people, too. True. Maybe I should go to the places that make me feel at peace and write poems about them. Then again, they've all kind of been torn down and replaced by neighborhoods. Now that I think about it. The only place left is the trailer park where the pond is. But, I mean, to most people, that's an ugly place. I like it. It's better than my neighborhood. My neighborhood's supposed to be a step above a trailer park. Reiko smiled, cheeks flushed, and dipped her head like I had said something scandalous. I would be honored if you wrote a poem about that shrine. It's a special place for me. I want to share it with the world. How altruistic. I know it must sound silly dreaming about reaching the world when I live in a place like this. Reiko threw out her arms as if to demonstrate how very barren and empty the landscape that constructed her world was. She was still holding the shovel. The sharp edge winked in the pale sunlight. I don't think it's silly, I said softly. She blinked. No? No, that's the whole point of writing. To share things with other people. To give them your innermost thoughts and feelings. Your heart, if you will. To try and make them understand. No, that's why my writing sucks. It's because my heart is so small. And so messed up. Oh, that sounds so beautiful. I shook my head. It's cliché. But clichés can be beautiful too. The critics would have turned their noses up at such a simple viewpoint, but as I watched Reiko, I almost started to reconsider. Maybe clichés could be beautiful, if only you gave them the chance. I can give you directions to the shrine, but thinking about it, it might be a bit hard to find, said Reiko, coy now, as she dug the tip of her wooden sandal against the snow. I could always accompany you if you want. I did want her company very much, so much so it was almost alarming. How had this little girl, as skinny as the bleached white sorry bones from yesterday grown to mean so much to me in such a short space of time? I can't say the answer to that because I might get yelled at. But she had. I had dreamt of her at night, and had been thinking of her all day, though I had tried to write about the snow and the stillness and purity and innocence of it all. My pen invariably started to compose odes to Reiko. But despite my emotions waging war inside my breast, you could have said chest, and it would have been okay. But the fact that you said breast, first of all, it makes me hungry, because now I'm thinking about chicken. And second of all, it just sounds weird. I tried to act cool, aided, perhaps, by the frosty weather. Are you sure that's all right? Shouldn't you be shoveling? Oh, I already finished, Reiko reassured me. But what about your mother? Won't she mind? She probably will mind, but she minds about everything. Besides, this is all part of the job. Like you said, I'm showing a guest around. It's still work. And anyway, Reiko looked at her feet, still shifting. I think I need a change of scenery. Just for a little while. I screwed up my mic's wires. Now I don't know how to make them less screwed up. Dang. You want me to spirit you away? That's a great movie. No, wait, that's Spirited Away, right? Not spirit you away, or spirit me away. Spirited Away is a great movie, is my point. Oh, E.G., Reiko lifted her head. Her eyes were big and round and imploring like bottomless pits. No, those are my eyes. Have you seen my avatar? Please, take me far away. Take me away, a secret place, a sweet escape. Take me away. I don't know if that's the right lyrics. So far, I never have to look back. 'Cause I got a pocket full of sunshine. Her words were a breathless, desperate plea. I got a love and I know that it's all mine, oh. If I could have granted her wish, I would have done so in a heartbeat. Oh, do what you want, but you're never gonna shake me. Sticks and stones are never gonna break me, oh. Oh, I can't sing 'cause I'm sick. Reiko deposited her shovel in the wooden storage shed at the back of the inn, and began her new role as my erstwhile tour guide. I don't know what that word is. There's so many words I don't know. She led me through the snow-covered forest confidently, at a brisk pace, offset slightly by the confines of her kimono. Buoyed, I think, by her exodus from the stifling Azami Inn, she grew more and more animated the further away we got. Soon she began talking to me in earnest, her face overflowing with smiles. She paused every once in a while to point various facts about the flora and fauna. Here a colorful robin, and over there a cluster of delicate snowdrops with heavy hanging heads. Reiko told me about the time she had played in the forest as a child, building wonky snowmen until her hands were rubbed red raw, and how once she had lost a sandal in a snowdrift and never found it again. Poor sandal. She had tried to placate her mother, saying a wicked mountain witch had stolen it away, but her mother had been less than impressed and sent her to bed without any supper. I thought she was calling her own mother the wicked mountain witch. I read that completely wrong in my head. Reiko told me about Man, sent to bed without supper for losing a sandal? My god, how much do the sandals cost? Reiko told me about the nearby village of Higashiwa. That's not how you pronounce that. Higashikawa, and how pretty all the roofs looked when they were covered in snow. And how happy she used to be as a child when her mother took her on trips there there to buy new clothes or sweets or hair ribbons. Sounds like the opposite of my childhood. Every time my mom brought me out of the house, I was complaining, like, no, please, let me stay home and play Super Smash Brothers, please. Can I stay home and play some Pokemon? I don't want to go out there. I don't want to go clothes shopping for 4 hours looking for jeans. Reiko told me at night when the wind whistled through the trees and she was lying on her futon, she sometimes thought there were ghosts roaming around these woods. She didn't know why. Her imagination hadn't extended that far. It didn't dare. Well, there's the ghost of your father, probably. The ghosts were just watching, waiting. Their eyes were empty and hollow, like holes cut out of a sheet. Oh, good! I drew my avatar correctly then. I've got a good avatar. It does look like a ghost. Good. I was worried it looked too much like a zombie. As Reiko talked and talked, I found myself growing warmer and warmer, though truthfully, the air was still bitterly cold. That didn't seem to matter when I was with Reiko. Nothing mattered, except her. Another cliché. I was just about to say that you sound pretty cliché right there, man. But one that had never been more apt. After 15 minutes of walking and talking, my lovely tour guide finally paused, her stories faltering on the tip of her tongue. We had finally arrived at our destination, and all the music stopped dramatically. Oh, it's been such a long while, Reiko said softly, her tones reverent. I've been here hundreds of times already, but I always forget. And her voice trailed away because words couldn't explain how she felt at that moment. Words couldn't explain how I felt either. It's a very nice shrine, I like it. The shrine really was beautiful. But man, all shrines in Japan are beautiful. Japan is just a beautiful looking place. I want to go there, man. My brother goes up there all the frickin' time. I want him to take me, but also he doesn't like me, so, I mean, okay, well, he doesn't hate me either, but, you know, we aren't friends. We're not even really acquaintances. We're more like complete strangers, so I know he'll never take me. It's so sad. He goes there like every year. At least once or twice a year, man. I want to go to Japan. But then again, I also don't, because I'd feel out of place there. Because I feel out of place everywhere. Except for in this house. It was a small, humble affair, tucked away in a corner of the forest where the trees were thick and the snow lay thicker. There were no endless stone steps, no pagodas. What the heck's pagoda? I should know that word. It feels like a word that I should know. Nope. Didn't know that word. It's an interesting looking building. An interesting looking Japanese building. I didn't read much about it. I just saw pictures of it. There were no endless stone steps, no pagodas. I didn't look up how to pronounce it. You know, I should have done that, but oh well. No pomp. I don't know what a pomp is either. No fanfare at all. The shrine itself consisted of a wooden offerings box, and that was it. The box was dusted with white, powdery snow, as were the trees about it. Naturally, the box was empty. I doubted anybody would wend their way through the trees to offer anything to a small shrine like this. I wasn't even sure which god this shrine was devoted to. It was probably some local spirit from centuries gone by, whose name nobody had bothered to remember. Ah, poor spirit. Give it an apple or something, before something terrible happens. Certainly nobody remembered to tend to the shrine. The offerings box seemed to be rotting away even as I stood there, and the ground was overgrown with thick coils of tree roots and broken branches. Still, the shrine was beautiful. I know it isn't much to look at, said Reiko, suddenly self-conscious. I'm sorry if it's a bit of a disappointment. I hope I didn't get your hopes up. No, it's fine, I said, quick to reassure her. I like it, I do. Had an itch on my head, I do. But, Reiko fiddled with her fingers, hooking and unhooking them at her front. It was stupid, really, to ask you to write a poem about here, of all places. You shouldn't waste your time on something so banal. Oh, please, I said, rolling my eyes, though a soft flush of embarrassed happiness rose to my cheeks, regardless. My time is worth no more than anyone else's. You're just being modest. I think your poems are lovely. The critics said otherwise. Well, they're silly. You shouldn't listen to those critics. Isn't criticizing their job? That is true. I mean, what do critics just... Critics do criticize because it's their job. Even if they like or dislike whatever they're watching, they're still gonna criticize it. No matter what it is. I suppose. They should be thanking you, really, said Reiko lightly with a small smile. If people like you didn't create works of art for them to tear apart, they wouldn't get paid. They're like leeches who profit off your hard work. They couldn't exist without you. That's also true. They're leeches. A symbiotic relationship, I pondered. I hadn't thought of it like that before. You know, I always thought it was strange that critics, were a real job, you know? I always thought it was just strange that being a critic was a job. Because all it is expressing your opinion on something that somebody else made. I mean, I guess if you're a well-known critic, you do sway people's opinions of things. Because some people are very, easy to persuade into disliking or liking something. But even so, it just seems weird that having an opinion and saying your opinion out loud is a job. Especially when there's so many different opinions in the world. Anyway, I hadn't thought of it like that before. Well, sometimes I have good ideas. Not like going to the shrine, of course, but other ideas, better ones. Occasionally, maybe? She asked, looking at me for, what, clarification? If so, I was only too happy to give it. You have very good ideas, and don't worry about that shrine. I'm glad you took me here. But I don't even know when this shrine was built, or why. Most of the people in Higashikawa don't even know it exists. That makes it even more special. How does it? Doesn't that make it meaningless? Nothing is meaningless in this world. If we don't know the meaning of something, we can make up its meaning by ourselves. Reiko gasped. Is it really okay to do that? I don't see why not. We repurpose things from the past all the time. It stops them becoming defunct. I don't know if I have a right to repurpose anything. I mean, I'm not very smart. You're smart enough. I smiled sheepishly, scratching my cheek with one finger. I don't know about your praise of my poetry because it doesn't deserve it, but other than that, I'd say you're rather intelligent. If only she didn't like that awful poem about the fireworks. Why'd everybody like that poem so much? Maybe it's a good poem. I really want to read this stupid poem about the friggin' fireworks. I had liked it too when I had first written it, but I had changed a lot since then. The words on the paper, however, had stayed the same. Sorry about that scratching noise. That was me scratching my head. My own boyish emotions, running far ahead of me, had been committed to print for everyone to read, everyone who cared to buy a copy of my anthology from their nearest bookstore, that is. Well, that's what makes it a good poem, man. 'Cause it's from the heart. Poems are only good poems if they're from the heart. You can't write a poem without emotion in it. And the more emotion a poem has, the better it is. At least that's how I see poems. That's why writing poetry to a person you like is considered a romantic thing. And not something weird. I mean, you wouldn't write a novel and give it to somebody, right? No, but you'd write a poem. I wonder if they stocked it in the remote Higashikawa. Stocked it in the whatever. Probably not. It wasn't that popular. I guess it's a bit selfish that I took you here, said Reiko quietly, her brown eyes fixated on the small shrine. I don't know anything about it, not really. You know what? Her eyes look brown now. Didn't I say they looked green earlier? Well, now they look brown to me. I don't know why. That's weird. I don't know anything about it, not really, but I have a lot of memories of this place. You'd probably think my feelings are shallow, but not at all. Not at all. If it's important to you, it's important. The reason why doesn't matter. Well, I stumbled upon this place by accident when I was about 6 or 7. I was out playing in the forest and then got a bit lost and oh my god, I can't sit on my legs anymore. I'm dying. I'm losing the circulation in my legs. Why was I sitting on my legs? Because I'm short. It just feels nice, man, okay? I don't like having my feet dangling. Well, I guess I don't have to dangle my feet because this desk has like a little table a bit above the floor. It's not really a table, but that's what I'm calling it. A platform. A little bit above the ground, and I can put my feet there. I was out playing in the forest, and then I got a bit lost, and somehow I ended up here. Like you were drawn. That's it, said Reiko, her eyes lighting up with realization. That's exactly it, like my body wasn't my own, and it was controlled by some kind of higher power. The spirit? Maybe. Reiko nodded her head seriously, as though she would quite like to believe in spirits and not in pure dumb luck. I didn't blame her. I preferred the romantic option too. Me 3. It's more fun. Life is just more fun with mysteries. And if you make life more mysterious, then you make life funner. And that's why I believe in the Tooth Fairy. I'm joking, I don't believe in the Tooth Fairy. Though I did when I was a kid, and it was fun. It made life more fun. And more mysterious. Maybe it was the spirit of the shrine, whoever it is. Oh, that's her. Dang. Maybe it was the spirit of the shrine, whoever it is. Maybe they called to me, said Reiko. I wouldn't blame them if they did, I said. It must be lonely out here with no visitors, no offerings, and nobody to take care of you. I wonder if that's why the shrine called out to me then. I must have sensed that we're kindred spirits. Reiko, I looked down at her at the crown of her dark head and frowned. Were you lonely? Well, no, she is. She has nobody out here. There's no other kids. Horribly lonely. I had a very isolated childhood. Compared to me, you're still a child, you know. And I'm still lonely. She said it simply, as though it was a fact. Like the sky is blue and the snow melts come springtime, Kakuichi Reiko was fated to be lonely. That was just how life went. God dang, it freaks me out still. It still confuses me that the Japanese, they have their last names first. So when I saw Kakiuchi, I was like, what? Why are we mashing up her mom's name and her name together? And then I realized by the end of that sentence that, oh yeah, that's the last name of the woman. I don't know her first name. At least I don't think I do, unless I learned it and then I immediately forgot it. Still, it was very confusing to see that. But it was so wrong. Why should she have been resolved to such a sad life? Why wasn't she trying to fight back? Because she doesn't know how? Because she's a child and this is all she's ever known. That's why. Maybe she had tried to fight once upon a time, but fighting had been too hard, too exhausting, and it hadn't paid off. Few things in life do. Not everybody can be as lucky as I. Yeah, okay, Mr. Show-Off. After I found about this place, I came here a lot, said Reiko. Whenever Mother scolded me, which was often, I would run away and hide here. It became a second home, I suppose, a home away from home. Reiko glanced upwards, her big brown eyes taking in all the trees. They were snow-laden skeletons, large and immovable, that seemed to have been here since the dawn of time. I wonder if I helped these trees grow. I cried here often enough. That's depressing. She broke off, giggling shyly. But that's a bit embarrassing. No, it's more like just depressing. I swallowed. I wanted to hug her so badly it was painful. I wanted to pull her close and run my hands through her hair and tell her she never had to feel lonely or shed tears ever again. But those were all lies. I was old enough to know speaking such fanciful words so carelessly would only hurt a lonely, isolated soul like Reiko. It wouldn't hurt me! Someone would hug me! Run fingers through my hair! Tell me I'll never be alone again! You have to be attractive first. That sounded so messed up, I'm sorry. She would believe me too readily because she wanted so desperately to believe in someone, and I would let her for a few brief moments because what man doesn't like playing Prince Charming? No, it's true. It is fun to play the hero. But that was all it would and ever could be. A fleeting affair like the fallen snow. I couldn't do that to Reiko. I didn't want to hurt her, so I couldn't lie to her. All I could do was try and understand how she felt. Did your mother scold you a lot? I asked her softly. She did. She still does, but I can't get away as easily as I could before. I have too many responsibilities now. And what does she scold you about? Oh, all kinds of things, said Reiko with a shrug. Split ends, dirty fingernails, if I speak out of turn, if I talk too loudly, if I don't talk at all, if I oversleep in the mornings, if I don't beat the futons properly. Sometimes I think she scolds me because I breathe incorrectly. You remind me of a lot of mothers who aren't mine, thankfully, but a lot of mothers I've met over the years. Going to friends' houses. Just a bunch of yelling. A lot of yelling. A lot of senseless yelling. Reiko shifted, perhaps guiltily, and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. In fact, those friends, they had families that were bigger than mine, and I always was envious of how big they were, but whenever I went over to them and saw their families in action, how the brothers and sisters would fight, and how the mom and dad would argue, and then they'd yell at the kids, I started to be glad for only having one person to deal with in my household. Most of the times, I deal with the cats. And cats are much easier to deal with than people are. Because cats, they don't speak. I mean, sure, they yowl at 3 in the morning, but I can deal with that. I don't think I could deal with 3 other people yelling at me all the time. I mean, I'm sure there's good moments, but I didn't really see those. She was mad at me yesterday, actually. She said I spent... sorry. She was mad at me yesterday, actually. She said I spent too long in your room. She was suspicious. Ah, I said intelligently, because there was nothing else to say. Go away, notification. There was nothing else to say. I had wondered whether this was the reason Reiko had been so jumpy that morning. I felt like some kind of criminal involved in a vile plot to steal away Reiko's innocence. I'm sorry if I got you in trouble, I said, bowing my head. I should have known better. No, it's fine. It's not your fault. I knew she would be angry if she found out, but I couldn't help myself. It's been such a long time since somebody spoke to me like a real human being and asked about my opinions that I couldn't help myself. Now I know what that's like. You don't get to talk to people often, I asked, though I already knew the answer. I don't get to talk to people often either. Is this my story? God, I hope not. I'm gonna meet a person 20 years older than me and fall in love. Oh God, no, and it's all gonna end horribly because they're already married and have 2 children. No thanks. The deserted hallways of the Azami Inn made that quite apparent. I sometimes speak to the guests, said Reiko after a pause. Or they speak to me. The men, mostly. They think I'm pretty, some of them. They would think I was less pretty if I spoke to them about poetry, I think. And what about school? I pressed. Have you ever gone to school? She shook her head. The nearest school is in Higashikawa, and that's too far away. But there are taxis. What about Yasuke? He could drive you. Yasuke, not Yasuke. Mother can't afford to let me go. There aren't enough staff at the Azami Inn as it is. How are you so smart, man? If you never went to school. She needs me. That's what she tells me. She needs me, and it's probably too late to worry about my education anyway. I'll never be a smart girl now. All I can do is carry trays and shovel snow. Well, it's never too late to learn something new. Though it is true that children, their brains are like developing and stuff, so it's much easier and much better to teach them when they're a young child rather than when they're a grown adult, but you can still learn stuff. Also, that's depressing. This is very depressing, and it's reminding me of a friend of mine who also had to leave school behind because of family issues. I'm sure that's not true. No, it isn't. I can wash pots, too. Reiko's tone was so unmistakably bitter it hurt. It didn't seem right that such a young girl should sound so cynical, not when she responded to my poem, my silly, stupid, sentimental poem, with such wonder. A girl who could gush about my early efforts at poetry wasn't a girl who should have consigned herself to a life of servile misery. She deserved better than that. She deserved much, much better than me. She deserved a man who could write better poetry. I suppose living like this isn't too bad. There are people who've had it worse. I have a roof to sleep under and food to eat, and I have my mother. She can be quite strict, yes, but she's never hit me. At least that's something. I don't know who she was trying to convince, me or herself. Well, I might not be too qualified to comment on the situation, but it sounds like your mother expects a lot from you. Okay, this is hers. Her line. She expects too much, I think, but I can't tell her that. She won't listen. She never listens. Reiko's brow creased. She says she pushes me because she loves me. But what do you think? Oh, I don't doubt that. I know she loves me. It's because she loves me that she fusses so much. If she didn't care, she wouldn't bother, and I suppose that makes me happy, but... Reiko began to fiddle with the sleeves of her kimono, suddenly anxious. Seeing her so wound up made me feel wound up too, and I couldn't suppress a spike of intense dislike I felt towards Miss Kakeuchi. How could she do such a thing to her own daughter? Reiko was so much happier, her face bright and warm and cheerful when her mother wasn't around. When she'd been talking to me about poetry the previous day, or when the 2 of us had been walking through the forest, she'd been like a different girl, a happy girl. As soon as the topic of her mother came up, however, her face clouded over and she fell in on herself, all awkward elbows, hunched up shoulders. It was a sorry sight to behold indeed. I know Mother loves me, but I wish she didn't love me quite so intensely. It's a lot of pressure to deal with. I looked at Reiko with pity, though I knew she didn't want my pity. It wouldn't help. But I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't stop my heart hurting for this poor, lost, lonely girl. If one's love for their children is measured by how much you scold them, Sachiko and I would be the cruelest parents in the world, I said lightly, trying to joke. Your children must be very lucky then, said Reiko sadly, her eyes downcast. I wish I had a father like you. I fear I would bore you very quickly. Never, said Reiko empathetically, shaking her head. We could go on walks and you could show me your writing and we could, I don't know, be happy together, I suppose. You're not happy with your mother? I love her a lot and she loves me, but loving somebody isn't always enough. That's right. there needs to be something more. No, love is no good if you don't really like the other person. I'm confused about who's saying what right now, but that's okay. Love is no good if you don't really like the other person. That's true. And that's why I've never been in love. Because I've turned down every option I get. You don't like your mother. No, that's not it. That's not what I mean, said Reiko, shaking her head. I do love my mother. I respect her, and she's very clever, you know, very, very clever. Strong, too, and practical, sensible. So I love her and she loves me, but I don't know if she likes me. Why wouldn't she like you? What was there about Reiko to dislike? I couldn't think of anything. I'm too flighty and stubborn and willful, maybe? I don't know. Reiko frowned. I used to snap back at her and we would argue and I would run off, but that made her sad and it made me sad, so I stopped doing that. I just accept it now and I try not to run away, but... Reiko looked about the shrine at the tumble-down box of offerings and the overgrown trees. Once upon a time, devotees of Shintoism had built this shrine in the forest to honor their gods. They would have lit candles and given money and stood in reverent prayer. Once upon a time, the shrine had meant something. It had a purpose, a reason to exist in this world. Now everybody has forgotten what its purpose was. It had been swallowed up by the trees and smothered in snow. It was a fitting place for Reiko then. A lonely place for a lonely girl. Coming back here makes me remember those times. I used to dream of running away a lot, said Reiko, looking up at me from beneath her eyelashes. Of packing my belongings, not that I have many belongings, and fleeing and going, oh, I don't know, somewhere far, far away. Much further than Higashikawa. Funny story, also true story, and kind of sad, but also pretty funny now. When I was a kid, I had a world map, right? And I hid this from my mom. I hid this world map for my mom. And on it, I listed out, like, a very detailed plan on how I was going to run away and make my way eventually to Japan within a few years. I'm serious. I planned out all the water I would need. I used, old... old Google Maps to try and find my way there. And in order to cross the ocean, I was like, I either need to steal a boat or I need to hitch a ride. I'm small enough, I could probably hide in like the lower decks in a box or something. Oh my god. I planned out how much food I would need, how much water. I think I already said how much water. I planned out everything I would carry. I planned out, like, what backpack I was gonna take. I planned all of this. And I did end up running away once, but I didn't get very far. I came right back. Got scolded that day. It was awful. I was expecting to return to open, welcoming arms. Nope, you get yelled at for running away. How dare you run away? Don't ever do that again. Like, okay, fine. Yeah, saying don't do that ever again is sure gonna make me not want to run away again, Mom. But yeah, I never ran away again. Mainly because I didn't really see a point in it. Here is comfortable, out there is not. I wouldn't know where to go. Even though I planned out my escape route. And then my mom found that map years later and she was like, what the frick is this? I had to explain to her that it was all just, pretend. She sighed. But I was far too young and I didn't have any money and I would have felt too guilty anyway. How could I run away when my mother loves me so much? It would break her heart. She doesn't have anyone else left. Yeah, those are exactly the same things I thought. This kid is me. This is creepy. But what about you, Reiko? Do you have anyone? I didn't say those words. I couldn't. That would have only made her sadder, and I didn't want that. Instead, I watched her, my brow creasing. My heart shuddered with sudden, inexplicable emotion. Reiko looked so grimly determined that I almost wished she was a heroine in a fairy story. Heroine or heroine? I don't know. Then she might have had a chance at a happy ending. I do know what it means. It's female hero. I've just never heard the word said out loud. Maybe I have, but I don't remember. That was it? These days keep feeling shorter and shorter. Maybe I'm getting invested and I don't even realize it. Wow, alright. Well, that was day 3. And now we're on day 4. Hooray. Story is getting interesting. I want to read more, but at the same time I want food, but then again there's no food in this house, but I'm so hungry. Don't worry about me, guys. I'm fine. I'll have food. I'll find something. There's probably something. If I look hard enough, it's probably gonna be junk food, but I'll find something. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you guys on day number 4. Bye.